Hi everybody, thank you for coming to LJ's Books. I'm Chris Rickert, I'm the owner of the bookstore. We are here today to discuss life on other planets in light of constant speculation as well as recent findings on Mars. Our panel today will express viewpoints of the common population, of different character types from different backgrounds. And so now we're going to go down the line and introduce ourselves a little bit more. Jason, would you like to start out?
Jason Swinchock. I have a degree in mathematics and computer science. 2008 I got into films and started a production company, and I've had a lifelong interest in science fiction. The movies that got me into it, of course when I was real little, E.T. was something that started getting me thinking about other worlds. And I remember Batteries Not Included was another film that I was like, oh wow, cool. And then of course when I got a little older, Aliens came out and really just blew my mind with that whole concept. We won't talk about Prometheus though. That's a whole other panel. Look at Tim, I know Tim hates it.
You could just cancel that.
But that's it. And I'm here, I come, I consider myself, me and Big Jim come from a little south of here, and it's probably backwoods country, and if you would bring up, do aliens exist on other planets, people would look at you like, who cares? That's the background I come from, but my whole point of view today is going to be of a science and mathematics point, and I want to have a little fun exercise and how I believe that there's an infinite amount of planets in the universe that have intelligent life on them.
Well, I'm Christine Soltis. I have been a writer for about 10 years now. I grew up on science fiction, horror. I didn't watch like Sesame Street like little kids. I was always watching all the horror horror movies and alien movies and stuff like that. I like to write about it. Just about 5 years ago, I got more into science. I started reading more about the Earth itself. And last year, I completed my Master's of Science in Environmental Studies. So I went from starting with horror and supernatural to now everything that I'm writing is really, really, truly evolving into, like science fiction at a faster speed at light speed. No, I'm just kidding. But I have a little company that I've begun to called SolsticeNightSky Productions, and that is kind of part of what this is the first panel that I tried to arrange for SolsticeNightSky Productions, and that's why you'll see some video cameras in here too, and we're going to put that together, so you will be able to watch this back later on. And that's for now.
My name's Matt, if you just didn't know that. I grew up on horror, and then just eventually grew into actually liking to write about it, but I didn't really start doing any like real writing, as in book writing, until about 10 years ago is when I started writing my own book rather than short stories. It's just all zombies really, just one of my main things with the horror. It's like my main focus is zombies. That's what I try to move from. I also went to school for criminal justice, got a degree in that. That was just pretty much something to fall back on if I couldn't, make it into the field of the film industry and trying to better the Hollywood horror. Not there yet.
And as I mentioned before, I'm Chris Rickert. I own LJ's Books. We are a sci-fi fantasy specialty store. And that's pretty much my entire engagement with the topic. I officially qualify for dumbest person on the channel today. But I read a lot of science fiction and a lot of fantasy, and I'm fascinated by the idea that there is something else out there other than us, and the possibilities that just the concept of life on other planets offers in movies and in storytelling. I think it's a really interesting lens to view ourselves through more than anything. So we have some questions prepared that we've all studied up on a little bit, so we're just going to go down the panel and answer each of the questions after I announce them. And our first question, and Jason, if you would start with your answer, is do you believe in life on other planets? And we hope that you will also elaborate on that and share some of your philosophies.
Next question. Do I believe? I would say, yeah, I have to believe that we're not alone. The way I view it is it seems pretty common sense to me, and one word I wanted to talk about today was infinite. And infinite's a word that everybody hears, but when I was in college, I really started with writing the programs and doing the number theory. The word infinite It's mind-blowing. You can just study the word and really start just to understand how big the universe is. Does anybody believe it's not infinite? I guess that'd be the first question. Does anybody believe that they would eventually run into a wall, your spaceship would just hit a wall and crash or blow up an invisible barrier? So everything I have today is based on infinite. And when you're talking about infinite number sets, you have to use the words almost surely, because obviously there is a slight chance that maybe we are alone, and that could even be more frightening. But almost surely is what we're going to talk about today. So if we're all going to agree on that the universe is infinite, there's a few things we can do with the concept of infinite. It's by definition, it means without any limit. And that could mean a lot of different things. There are very few things in that set. But I guess the easiest way for me to start describing, and I have a couple examples of how I usually explain it to somebody, like I would say, like my dad, who's been a coal miner for 40 years, but I can break it down into a concept where he could be like, okay, I understand that as well. And this stuff that, this stuff that me and Soltis talk about when we're drunk on my porch and talking about outer space, and Big Jim's there too, and my wife Laura. But we're all there like, what are they talking about? So anyway, if I had a 6-sided dice, and if you got any Dungeons and Dragons guys, I know you know the 6-sider, okay? Fire damage, die 6. But what are the chances if you roll a 6-sided die that you would get a 1? Anybody know before I tell you the answer? 1 in 6, exactly. Now, so there's a 1 in 6 chance when you roll that dice one time, it's going to get a 1. Now, what if I said, how many times would you roll 1 if I told you to sit here and roll that dice infinite times?
Probably get bored with it.
Get bored with it. Let's just say if you had the power to live forever and it was the most engaging thing you've ever done in your life, you would almost surely roll a 1 an infinite amount of times as well. And you'd have a lot of 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, and 6s as well. But 1 would come up. Now, if we had, that's one example, where any fraction or any probability over an infinite set, both numbers shoot to be an infinite possibilities, almost surely. If we had a set of balls, if we had red balls, blue balls, and yellow balls in a set, I use that for purposely. If they had a set and we had an infinite amount of red balls, green balls, blue balls, yellow balls, we had an infinite set of them, how many yellow balls would be in that set? You could say there's almost surely there's going to be an infinite amount of yellow balls in that set as well. All right, does everybody understand that? Also, so if we want to apply this to planets and why I believe, I guess to get to the gist of all this, why I believe so short is because how many planets in the universe right now are we absolutely positive of support intelligent life?
1 right now.
1. So let's go back to our example on the dice. We only needed to know that there was a 1 out of 6 chance. And if we push that to infinite, I can say if the universe is infinite, and we are positively sure that there's at least 1 planet out there, then I would have to say, by everything we know about infinite theory, that there's an infinite amount of planets out there. Even if we say there's only 1 Earth and a bajillion planets, there's still an infinite amount of more planets out there. So again, it's probability, and maybe we are, again, the only one. But using these theories and these little exercises, I would have to say that is why I absolutely believe that we're not alone.
Okay, well, actually, we already know that we're floating in space. I wrote mine out, as a writer, I tend to do that stuff. But we already know that we're floating in space, okay? The term of being a flying saucer in my intro here says it was an accident, actually, whenever they came up with it. Kenneth Arnold, in 1947, he was flying in space. He was just a businessman flying his plane. And there were 9 objects seen flying at high speed at Mount Rainier in the state of Washington. Now, he reported what he's seen. This was like the first actual popular report of an alien spaceship. And he described the objects as moving at several thousand miles per hour, like saucers skipping on water. Now, the media kind of mixed this up, and they described them as saucer shaped, which is where the term flying saucer came from. But there's something that visits us much more frequently than flying saucers, and those are meteors, meteorites, and we've even had asteroids come to us. Now, when I was looking up, because there is a vast amount of information when you consider anything about life on other planets. When I was looking at it up, Now we know Antarctica is one of the places that has received the most meteors. It's also one of the places, Earth-wise, that has the most depletion of the ozone layer, which I think is an interesting thing to consider, especially when it comes to Mars, because Mars has an atmosphere that is constantly evolving. They don't know right now what happened to Mars to make the atmosphere disappear, but something just sucked it out of there. And there are actually recent articles, like he sent me one, claim that there might have been life on Mars billions of years before us, you know, so that's something to really consider. But when you take a meteor and you think about how when it reaches Earth, several of them, the first ones, a lot of the ones that were found in France were contaminated because people back then, they didn't wear like their gloves or anything, so it was contaminated with our biological data. But some of the other ones that have been studied, they found actual amino acids. Amino acids obviously are going to be a constituent for life. And the answer, one thing I wanted to know was how long could biological matter last in an asteroid in space? The answer is an estimated of 30,000 years. So it takes what, 2 years to travel to Mars, you know, if we were in like a plane. 30,000 years of biological matter traveling in the space actually makes me think about how our own, like for example, we don't think about when something hits us, we think about the impact it has to us. But in some small cases, our own matter is pushed back into the solar system, and it can land wherever it wants. So there is speculation that we could be seeding life on other planets. Now, obviously, all the conditions have to be right. I mean, we have like the perfect sun, moon, Earth orbit to make life. That's why we're considered such an anomaly. But is there life on other planets? Of course there is, but I don't think it is going to look like what we expect it to be. Because like last year, I did my master's degree research project on water. Now water is essential for us. It's in all of our bodies. It is what we look for when we look for life on other planets. But a way to think about it is you have to kind of be creative with science. Science starts with creativity, and then you have to push the creativity aside in order to be realistic and find results. So when you're looking for life on other planets, you're only looking for water because that's what supports Earth. Every planet is different. We have a diamond planet, you know what I mean? We have a planet that is frozen, completely frozen. So if you believe in evolution even, it's interesting to think about, before we were even here, what if something happened on Mars that sent something over here that seeded our life? We could be the aliens. That's just the one thing I was considering. So, yeah, and they do. Yeah, they do. And like here, I have plenty of examples of it, but they found a pink caterpillar in the jungle. Now, if you think an evolutionary standpoint, a pink caterpillar in the jungle would stand out, would make it, it would be like attackable by predators. So, in Mars, a pink caterpillar would blend in, if you think about it. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like some of the creatures we even have here. What if they came from somewhere else in space and then just simply landed here and grew with our soil? And it's just something to think about. But a lot of my theories are based more on like Earth and the actual distinctions that should be made with each different planet.
I have a question before you move on.
Yeah.
Speaking on saying our matter can affect other planets or what's going on right now, we even have insurance companies right now making fun of space junk falling to the Earth. And I was just wondering if you feel, because there's so much space junk, satellites,
Yeah.
You know, we heard about the mirror thing falling, they were worried about where it was going to fall.
Yeah.
Is there a possibility that it's falling, you believe it could be falling out of orbit and actually going outward, maybe towards
oh my God,
Mars,
there's so much.
and it affects other planets?
Definitely, that could be like, even if we were seeking life on other planets, but we were unsuccessful, if something of ours did land, like crash landed somewhere else, because you know we have so many motions. We have black holes, and you know we have like just all kinds of stuff that, like stars being born. There are so many different comets and things like that, things that are like both heat and ice. Just there's a frost line. I mean, there's so much out there. It's very probable anything could be sucked out at any time.
And just I had one other question.
And that would piss them off. Depending where it landed, I'd be pretty mad.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I have one other question about you were bringing up Roswell, 1947, all that stuff. Do you feel like basically the government knew about it even before then, and do you believe in anything? And I'm sure people are gonna get into this later.
Oh yeah.
I was just wondering.
We have some of that on.
Yeah, I was just wondering because.
Well, another
You
very fascinating thing is that H.G. Wells, who we know, his stories popularized in America at least alien fiction and stuff. And in 1893, before he wrote War of the Worlds, he created a very obscure article that I'd love to find. This. It's the Man of the Year Million, and he kind of prophesized what the man would look like in the year million. They would not have sexual parts. They would be
Oh, thank God.
because a lot of the bodily functions would be rendered useless. Essentially, they would absorb food because it's okay. For example, a lot of one of the things I saw in my research was that we evolved now culturally, whereas we used to. There have been so many different types of humans. Like before modern day humans, you know, we started with like Neanderthals and things, just things that went into different lines, things that became extinct. And in the year million, if you think about it, he noted that the fork and the knife are relatively redundant because the jaw and the teeth's ability can chew apart and break down food on its own. So we don't need a knife and fork to eat, we just use it. So it's
figure out wisdom teeth.
Yeah, that was where in 1893, that was where the first hypothetical scenario of kind of like the Greys came out. And that was before we had actual encounters with the Greys. So they did come out in literature firsthand. In 1898, when H.G. Wells came out, he was one of the first ones that put Martians as being something against us that was going to kill us. You know, something that would cause a war between humankind. Orson Welles popularized it with his radio broadcast.
Because I was going to say, before you move on to math and
Yeah, I know. I always talk so much.
It just, you had so much into the
I have a
statement.
lot. I've got more than
I was going to say, if anybody that has seen John Carpenter's The Thing or the original 51 version of The Thing from Another World, they know it's based on a short story called Who Goes There?
Yeah.
And the person that wrote it, it was like in the early 30s, I believe, the story is from. And just the stuff that he talks about in this book, and I honestly believe it predates a lot of the
sightings,
space comics and all that other
definitely.
stuff, and I would love to know where in the heck he came up with that story.
What year was he said the
that
third?
just how he came up with stuff. It's like 47 pages or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And it's literally 20 years before anybody even talks about aliens and just the detail he goes into that short story. And to me, for me, I know there's like other opinions on how, you believe in aliens. I just, for somebody at that time, like you were saying, Orson Welles, but for a person even like that to put it in print, and
well,
in just the description of things that went on in that original story, it's amazing because it's like, well, if he isn't on drugs, that's unbelievable imagination.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was just like it took another 20 years for anybody's story or comic
even
books
like
or
Roswell
anything.
wasn't until 1947.
Yeah, just to even get as detailed as he did.
Yeah.
And that's why I was just going to say, for anybody that's into aliens, John Carpenter's The Thing is one of the best things that ever happened to cinema.
Yeah.
But, sorry, go ahead.
That's it.
I was getting the input on some of the stuff that he said. I was gonna actually ask you about too, like with the whole life on other planets thing. I mean, the basic stuff, if you think about it, like if there's life here, then why not in the other planets? And you said there was like a diamond-shaped or an ice planet or something.
Oh yes, there is one that is mostly composed of ice, and they say that very deep underneath, the temperatures would be warm enough that it could actually. And that leads into my next. Whenever they ask how they look, so I don't want to go too far.
You ever get into that? I can't think of the name. I think it was Planet. They called it Planet X or something, but it had like a fin or like a tail
Oh,
on
geez, I
it in
didn't
such
see
an
that.
amount of time. Eventually, like it bypassing Earth, it should like knock Earth off its, what you were saying, knock it off its axis or knock it off its rotation. Where made me think of the movie 30 Days at Night and watch some weird stuff happen because Earth it's gonna be dark for such amount of period of time.
Well, they also too, supposedly scientists have found that it is, they don't want to claim it as the 9th or 10th planet, depending on how you feel about Uranus and Neptune and Pluto and all those out there. But there's supposedly a planet out past Pluto that's supposedly much bigger than those three, and they just found it.
That's not serious, is it? There are so many different planets. I didn't
Well,
think
yeah,
it
but there is, like, I forget the proper name for it, but
Yeah,
supposedly
they have picked
it's
some
come to
strange names. They
light
put
that.
numbers for a
You'll
lot of
find
them.
it listed as Planet X a lot of the time online.
Yeah, because
If
I was
you
gonna
look up
say,
Planet X, you'll see a lot of
I think the
references.
reason why it's come to light is just because of how big it is. It's actually much bigger than even like, it's bigger than Mercury. It's actually very big compared to some of those stars that are out there.
My understanding from the little reading I did on it is that it's large enough that it's throwing off some concepts of what the size of a planet could be that far out. And so there's a lot of speculation, like some scientists are saying, well, there's no way this can exist mathematically. This thing is too big to survive that far
Yeah,
out.
'cause they're
And then
even-
other people are saying, but look at all of this evidence we have that something out there is affecting those little tiny outlying planets and all the stuff in the
because-
belt right outside the solar system.
I was gonna say, there's another article too about supposedly there's some scientists that are being frowned upon because they're claiming not that there's another sun out there, but there is some kind of star
They have like
that's near-
sun-hugging planets
that's
and stuff
actually
like that. This is actually
helping,
stuff Jason found.
helping this planet to survive, and these scientists are like being
They
frowned
call
upon
red
because
dwarfs
they're
a lot of the time. is
yeah,
what
they're
call
claiming
red dwarfs.
because of this there could be some kind of life on that planet,
Yeah.
and now they're like fighting to give it a name and all this other stuff.
Yeah, I want to think it was
They said the
were
Earth
here
might have had something.
like before us, even going all the way back to like the discussion that we're having now, like life on other planets. I honestly think, it's like not the government that we see, when you flip on a TV and there's everybody just sitting there, looks like they're just doing nothing. The government that you see, like the House of Representatives, what we don't see beyond that. I honestly think that there is, and they know, but to like we the people, they don't really they put it in like the movies and what they teach you going all the way back to school, like in science class. I believe what they taught us was bullshit, because I want like the pyramids and all
It is
this,
something ancient.
where they
ancient
were
scholars are.
originally like adapted, like came from. They left here, but there was like certain breeds of them. But it's like pretty much it was the extraterrestrials who built the pyramids, and you see those statues, like looks like they're wearing long hats, and I think it was like the hieroglyphics too. But it's actually what they looked like, and that's for the other planets. I think you have your own, okay, humans are from Earth, whatever you want to call these ones from Pluto or Mars, but it's like they were here first, and they actually could have created us. And yeah, and we actually used to have 15 strands of DNA. Well, we're down to, what is it, like 7 or something like
So
that?
do you believe that the predators were actually
Are you
talking
about
to the Aztecs at that time?
So yeah, that's good with those, and what other religion or type of people?
Yeah.
Scientology,
That-
reptiles.
Well, the silent.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
that
see,
seems like something you would.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that's, to be honest, I don't know if anybody believes it, I think that's baloney. I believe all the other stuff, with the Egyptians, the Aztecs,
Do you
even
believe
the
in
Mayans,
graves
they
and-
maybe have
Yeah, it's
been visited, but I think the Scientology, I think, was all about money. I think it's
you got a good point.
It is.
Yeah, it is. I think it's,
Well, the reptilians
a
are
crap
supposed to be the
load,
ones
but-
that like wanna
They said
take
they're.
us over. or
Yeah,
something.
they said whenever they abduct people, the reptiles actually have sexual encounters with them.
Yeah, well, humanoids. You ever meet
Yeah, they
somebody
said
with
that
like
they were
nine, or
supposed to
like,
breed with us.
You can meet people with who have like 6 fingers or 6 toes. So if you look that stuff up, they call them like humanoid, or it's possible like whatever woman was abducted, they were completely wiped, or they don't remember, they wake up, like, you know, it could have been a dream, but they don't remember being abducted, or
Yeah, that's
something
like
like that,
X-Files
but the
territory
graves,
there.
if you watch the movie Signs, or even the movie Paul, the grave, those are them, there's the tall ones, the short ones are like,
As long as
the
they just
workers
talk
or
like Seth Rogen.
soldiers.
If the aliens all talk like
They
Seth
say
Rogen, I am
that
so into
reptilians.
being invaded.
Yeah.
I guess that means he's right.
One way.
Yeah. Well, my answer's super short.
That's awesome.
I absolutely think that there is other life in the universe, and I think back to what Jason said. I think mathematically speaking, it would be a very, very odd thing if there wasn't. I think one of the interesting questions is how much of that life is intelligent, because there are many scientists who espouse the I'm going to forget the name of the theory now. It's the unique event theory that states that there could be life all over the place, but it took some kind of unique event to evolve life on Earth to intelligent life, and that may actually be a fairly unique event in the universe. I'm not sure if I buy it, but I think it's a very interesting distinction to make in the discussion about extraterrestrial life, because I think we tend to think extraterrestrial life and then they all get in spaceships and come visit us.
Yes.
But it could all be, we could be surrounded by planets full of single-cell organisms that will never be able to communicate with us. Or there may be other humanoids out there, or other beings that are so different from us that we just can't even fathom how they would travel or recognize them if they were standing right in front of us. But I definitely think it's out there. I personally am a little more skeptical about reports of UFOs that have visited Earth, which we'll talk more about later in the panel. I'm not entirely convinced that that is the same thing as extraterrestrial life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely open to the possibility.
There's reasons behind Area 51, and it has nothing to do with
Yeah,
this
I think there are some other explanations for a lot of what have been deemed UFO sightings or encounters with extraterrestrials. But I don't think that if all of that was not true, or we were interpreting things that we were seeing incorrectly, I don't think that negates the possibility for life on other planets at all. I just think that those may be two separate issues to discuss.
Can I ask all four of you a question?
Yeah.
There's a oddball theory out there that, like, the Yeti, Jersey Devil, Sasquatch, whatever you want to call it.
Crypto, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a theory out there that is actually an alien or alien.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And I was just wondering if any Floridians had a believe in it. I think it's.
Is that the one that washed up on shore? There was like a plant nearby.
No, this is just it's a recent theory that somebody's come out that there's a reason why only certain people see these things or claim to see them, but also to believe that they're all related in some form or another, that everybody has a different name for them, but they're actually the aliens that we're kind of looking for.
I would
they
say
are.
I'm open to that possibility, but I still haven't seen any conclusive proof any of the animals
either.
that cryptozoology is hunting for.
Yeah.
I definitely believe they could be out there, but until I see some kind of proof that I feel is valid, I'm going to continue to make that a big question mark.
Yeah, I would feel the same. Someone reaching, I would say, it's someone reaching for a connection.
Yeah.
I'm very skeptical with you though, as far as, and we'll get into that though, as far as are they here right now?
Yeah.
I'm very skeptical on that.
Me too. So let's get on to the next question then, so we can cover some of these things that we're all now skirting around.
let's jump
The
in.
next question, and we'll toss it to Jason first, is through science fiction tales, the real science behind extraterrestrial life has been painted into a picture of various physical beings. What do you imagine a life form that is alien to us would physically look like?
Okay. Yeah.
This is a good question.
What it gets to, it goes back to a couple other things, is that I don't think, my stance on the whole thing is I don't think we can fathom what they look like, but we can take guesses. And with what we know about the world we live in, and one concept we always talk about is that people don't realize there's still an innate human ability to feel like it's 300 years ago we're on the ground and space is up. But once you get to the concept in your head that we are space, we're floating in space, we are an alien creature living in space, the universe is representative of the same types of elements. I mean, we're pretty sure that what's here is elsewhere. Maybe a few things we haven't discovered yet. If there is something out there, I would say that it would have a familiar cousin, because I believe that the same creatures, the same amoebas, put in a similar environment would evolve in similar ways, minus the unique events, of course. But again, if we're in an infinite system, these unique events are infinitely happening everywhere. So they would be very similar to something we have seen or haven't seen. Now, the ultimate thing, though, is I was making some notes here as we were discussing, and you brought up a good point with where did that guy come up with that knowledge? Somewhere along the lines, everything we see, like if you just look around at all these books, there's stories you can read, there's movies you can watch where you clearly know where they were coming from. And you know, zombies, another important topic in Pittsburgh. Before George Romero did his movie, the idea of a zombie was a very different voodoo type creature. It was nothing we do now of what the monster is. And my whole thing is that we change our perceptions very quickly. Even with the Planet X thing. You know, since before 2006, science absolutely knew we had 9 planets. Pluto was the 9th planet. You know, I learned that in middle school. 2006, they come and go, that's different. You know, we wouldn't be in the United States right now if Christopher Columbus didn't say, hey, I don't think this is round. I don't think it's flat. But there were people that were going to kill him or kill you over even the thought of that. We project different. I don't believe in grays and reptilians and this and that and that and this, because it's the works of man, and we are the most imaginative creatures. And just, I mean, take a look around. All these books, they have a tale that's coming from someone's mind. Look at the worlds we create. And a zombie is a very recent new monster where it was created from one man's idea. Now, how could he sit down and think of that? I don't know. But now everybody is doing something with it. You know, that's just, I mean, I'm just very skeptical on those type of things. Even back to like the Yeti and stuff like that. I was into paranormal. A few years ago, I met up with a group of paranormal researchers, and we went and I did the investigations, ran some of their new equipment, and showed them how to use it. And I'm going to tell you right now, I've been into some of the most haunted places in PA, and from my point of view, it's crap.
Thank you.
I've been in rooms that literally you'll hear now and did you get that? Did you get that?
Just trying to communicate.
That was it. And I'm like, yeah, no. And so I believe that we are a very imaginative creature, and since the dawn of man, we've been looking up going, what is that? And human beings usually worship the unknown first, and then we start to understand, then we theorize on really what it is. I do believe that when we do finally make contact, I believe it will kill religion. I believe the aliens will say, no, Jesus didn't do these things, this magic stone did. And when butterflies fly out that stone, I'm going to start worshiping that stone. I'm a guy that needs to see things. So if they do exist out there, and I'm pretty sure that they do, they would have to look similar to us. As far as they won't be totally alien to us. They would have to have something just based on the chemicals that, and the elements we know that creates life. They have to be created from similar things.
So you think the Star Trek makeup artists have it right? It's a bunch of humanites walking around with like an extra bone ridge on their forehead, or like a little gill behind their ear.
That is a
something
little more
like
realistic, because you could be I believe there might be a world that's flooded with water. We have shown, people that don't believe in evolution, you can see it just in the past, few hundred years, people do evolve. And some people say we're going to start losing fingers eventually and this and that, but you would adapt even if you just swam all day, a swimmer's body looks different than a couch potato like me. They just look different. You can see where it's going. If we all had to be forced to swim every day, we would have very powerful leg muscles. We would start to change, and I think that's, that's what I'm saying. I like the concept of an alien being a humanoid, maybe something weird with a nose or a pointy ear, So that's my take on it.
Okay, well, mine is as I mentioned before, like, because there is constant sharing of biological data between our, universe. So I kind of wanted to bring up something I read about in 2008. The kind of first, it was in The Making of the Fittest by Sean B. Carroll, and it showed about how we see things, like how birds have like certain things that stand out, like maybe like something that's kind of below that we can't see, but the bird can see. So we have things like that. But what I want to bring up is the bloodless fish in Bouvet Island. Now, back in the 1950s, people were like, that's not possible. There can't be a fish without blood. But interestingly, they actually captured this fish. And the funny part is whenever I went to Google it again, I found that people were like, did aliens drop this bloodless fish onto our planet? So I thought that was interesting. But it is lacking hemoglobin. And it either could have evolved because the water out there is very cold. And the thing is that what if it came like from the planet that was buried in ice? Maybe something hit that, shot over here. Well, you never know.
Space
Imagine
Yeah,
flying
space
space
jump.
Space.
So the funny part is whenever you think about this on this kind of animal, this kind of fish, if it was on the ice planet, for example, that's what their alien being would look like. It would be a tiny organism. Now, because they don't have everything that we have, they don't have like the constant sunlight, they don't have even enough soil to grow or anything like that. It would constantly remain as a small organism. And if we tried to talk to something like that, it would kind of like talking to your goldfish in a bowl. It's like, can you tell me the secrets of the universe? You're not going to get an answer. But I think that it will depend, like he said, like Jason said, on like where they came from, like how you're talking about the Star Trek and everything. It would be dependent on what the planet itself was like. For example, there is a planet, I can't remember the name of this one, that the on one side it never gets light, so it's always cold. Now on the other side it's too hot, but there is a center line in the middle that could support life. So you have like it's all depends on the planetary alignment of where it's at.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's a tidal locked planet, I think is what it's called. A planet that doesn't rotate, it's tidally locked.
Yeah.
It
Yep.
just
So
sits.
there could be in this one strip, there could be even people like us, depending on how long. I mean, the thing is we're just now really starting to put wind in like studying. We're getting so much better at studying these planets.
Yeah, but they're not putting any money into the space program.
I know, well, they say that, but then they are sending the MAVEN mission in 2013 to study Mars' atmosphere.
That's 10 years or something.
Well, no, that's Mars 1. See, so they have two. Yeah, the Mars 1, they want to send people, like in a reality show sense, to Mars to live. And that's another thing I think is important to think about is gravitational fields. When you go to Mars, I think it's 38% of the gravity is at 38% on Mars. So you can't come back here. It would probably rip you apart. So that's another thing to think about whenever you think about whether or not aliens have visited us. The Greys, if the Greys did exist, their bodies are not made for planet life. Like if you look at how the way they are created, it's like they are constantly in a spaceship or in actual space.
So they didn't have to wear a spacesuit.
Well, that's what kind of what it sounds like. Like even if they, and like you have whenever you think about the Greys, you don't see anatomy. You never see someone say, "Look at that Grey's package." You know what I mean? You can never see this anatomy on the Grey. So, but you have to reproduce in order to continue. So another thing I thought is if there was such thing as a Grey, it would be a created kind of like a droid. You know what I mean? They are built for war. They have like skin that would be smoother. You can't really grasp it. You know what I mean? When you see the stereotypical picture of one, they don't have any appendages that stick out. They're slim, so they're fast. Everything about them is evolutionary towards war, and I think that part has to do with like H.G. Wells and his beginning literature, since he was the first one who kind of said that we would evolve to be something like that. Yeah, so that's fine. I think it's going to be, I think they would be droids if they were in existence in any sort of way, because they're made for defense. And I think even that doesn't really pan out though, because a droid would have intelligence that was limited by its creators, like whoever made it would want to keep it under a certain level of control. Now when you see things like grays, you always hear that there's one that leads and the other ones that kind of follow. So
I think what the
you
tall
hear that?
ones or
Yeah,
something.
there's like a tall one that leads and there's always ones that follow. So it's kind of a, I don't really know.
I think they're vulnerable.
Evolutionary, but they'd have to be really freaking old. I'm just saying, they'd have to be much older than us.
I think they're vulnerable of death just like us. Like home with a gun.
Yeah.
But their defense mechanisms are like they have what is it, telepathy when like I just like look at you but yeah you're thinking
Oh
that.
yeah, quantum entanglement.
That's how they do it, and the Frank Schneider guy, it's where they can move, do some hand gestures, and it's like a power of like stuff that you would see like in science fiction movies. They actually have a like rather than us holding a gun for our protection, they don't
Yeah.
have like
They don't have anything.
like a thing that Marvin the Martian carries on.
Well, there's one more thing I want to add to that too, and that's that the 1961, the first popular account of the encounters with the Greys was the Betty and Barney Hill abduction. Now they claimed that they were taken in the saucer-shaped spaceship, and they said their reports were kind of contradictory. Now they said that the aliens had no mouths, but they also said that the aliens grinned at them. Now, I'm not sure how that would happen, grinning without a mouth, but the other thing that they said that I think is really kind of fascinating is like when they are examined, allegedly, the alien stares in your eyes the whole time. How come it's But yeah, I think pretty much to sum it up, I think that whatever it would look like would be hinging on the conditions of its planet, what kind of, environment they live in.
See, it's when you think of like what an extraterrestrial looks like, it is. Back to what you were saying. One two notes. It's just what you see in the movies. You can't quite get a picture of your own on it because in certain years the scene they look like this or they look like that, and they actually more look like skeletons actually in that movie.
Were they robots or what were they?
They were
alien robots?
They were like
Robots.
aliens, but I don't think they ever mentioned anything of robots in the film. If it did, because they even just came out with the Blu-ray of it, and it has actually Roddy Piper and Carpenter on it doing the commentary, which you're either gonna A, feel they both have completely flipped their fucking lid watching the commentary, or B, actually buy into what they're saying because they think it's more of a social thing than really aliens taking over. They believe it's just people that think they are above others. Whether you want to call them Republicans or not is a whole different story, but they really, in this new commentary, get into the social issues of these aliens. But there's never any mention of cyborgs, anything of that nature. There's nothing mechanical about them. It is supposed to be aliens were here, they've been here for many years. I think, if I remember correctly, somewhere in the commentary, like, Carpenter just, like, laughed and hinted at like Orson Welles, like when he did his whole thing back in the day, that was the beginning of it.
But yeah, it's well, what you just said, like they've been here a long time. It's I don't want to jump the track yet, but like even when it comes to like trying to communicate with them or whatever, I think they were already here and they're in your midst. Like you walking by, like if you would walk down the street and past Justin, you'd be thinking like, where's them sunglasses? You're gonna wanna get them out. But it's either it's like what a gray alien looks like, a reptilian breed, but even what you were saying with the gills on the neck. And me and my mom talked before, like you, any neighborhood or where you've been, you always got that one, like, or even few. Well, nowadays everywhere, like strange people. It's like the way they walk, how they walk at you. It's me and my mom always used to joke around like, yeah, those are aliens. They're
I joke
like
around a lot.
you interact with them, like you see their like in the skies. If you listen to that song by System of a Down, Aerials, and if you haven't seen the video, it's kind of something like that. Like they're here and they're all around you. You just don't really see them. That's pertaining to what Jason was saying about they would have to have a form or even look like us. But as for, like 10 legs or even the green guy you see with the big eyes and the big head. I mean, other planets and things like that, this is what humans look like here on Earth. Each other planet just, they have their own adaptation.
Do you think that they would arrive in spaceships? Do you think that there would be like more like parallel dimension, some other method of getting here? Because we know how long space travel takes.
Yeah, and it was, something happened, it was in 2008, something like that, to where this one lady, I can't remember her name, but my mom, she was kind of turning me on to all of it, telling me this stuff, and eventually here, they're going to show their like existence where people are no longer going to be like, you're all going to know that they exist. Like supposedly in the United Kingdom, the government and everything already told their people, like I think in Europe as well. I actually just spoke to a lady from Pakistan or wherever she's from down at the school. We talked about aliens. They had no idea over there. I guess they have no idea about anything with extraterrestrials. And that's what she told me. Yeah, and I was like, oh wow. But yeah, I think they're here.
That was
Well, I was going to say,
Yeah.
you're talking about a whole other social culture there
Good
too.
point, yeah.
With, you want to talk about a government controlling information.
Right.
That has a lot to do with not only the government, but even the religion there is much different than ours. And no matter what you believe in, any of us, their religion, a lot of them are fighting believe they're fighting for their religion, and they're fighting anybody, whether it's us or, people just inside the country.
Yeah.
It's usually a fight over religion. They're very religious people.
Jason said something. He said, what was it about God or Christ with the alien or
I believe it'll disprove religion at that time. Yeah.
something like that? Well, if there was actually a whole bunch of people, like strangers here that I didn't know, I would tread light being welcome in a small little group here. If you dig into a little more into research, and I don't know how people are when it comes to religion, but it's possible that like Jesus Christ was actually our first alien. They
In the
created.
movie The Fourth Kind, at
Yes.
the end, whenever the
Yeah.
alien's talking, where he says like, "There's no God, I am
Yeah.
God."
But what
That's the alien
and you
saying.
said with the reptilians, supposedly that breed or whatever, it's they just made it up to gave us false hope to give us something to believe in, which that. But I know there's breeds that actually wipe us out. But other breeds that
I personally
Like
still
your
hope
grades.
for the redheaded green chick to show up. That's all.
All to look like that.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of this stuff that Jason said. I think if they do look like anything, they're
Yeah.
you could be walking past them every day, you just don't even know. Or that one mysterious man in the neighborhood is the alien, And that one with another yeah.
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 Did you
Well,
have to
I
look
don't
at
think I have anything to add. I think you guys pretty much said everything I would say. I agree with Jason that I think that that it would make sense from a biological standpoint that life on other planets would look a lot like the life on this planet with variations born out of evolution to its environment, whether it's a more water-heavy environment or a very dry environment, or an extremely mountainous environment where everybody needs spider-like legs to get around because that's how they have to climb. Or, if you look at the diversity of life on this planet, and not just the stuff that we know about, but all of the life that we still haven't discovered. A lot of the ocean is unplumbed in terms of finding new life, and the rainforest is turning up new species every year, and now we're finding single-cell organisms in Antarctica. I think that we've got there are certain similarities that you'll see between all of the different life forms on the planet, and I think on any other planet you're going to see the same kind of thing, but then with this huge amount of biodiversity in different regions of the planet. But I think it seems kind of silly on Star Trek occasionally there'll be somebody talking to a Klingon and they'll make a comment about their pet at home, and the Klingon's like, oh, we have a pet at home and he eats rocks. But really, I think in many ways that there would be analogs like that on another planet where there are intelligent forms and then there are less intelligent forms or forms that don't communicate that are pets and working animals and viruses and all these different things. But I don't think it would look so completely different to us in most cases that we wouldn't be able to say, that's an alien and it's kind of like me. But also, another thing that comes up a lot in science fiction is the idea that at some point in the evolution of an intelligent species it evolves beyond the need for a body. And I think until we actually see that happen, we're not really going to understand how that works. But again, as I said, what I'm bringing to the panel is my fascination with science fiction and how many great stories there are. And I think that's a really interesting concept to explore, either scientifically or just from the perspective of a person who likes to read sci-fi. And I think that once you get into that realm of possibility, then you're talking about the idea that there could be like aliens on our planet right now, and we have no idea because we can't see them. Their energy. They're operating in a different dimension. There's 1,000 other they could all have an ability to camouflage themselves.
I have a question then. If you're going to bring up a theory of they don't need a body or anything, going into Jason talking about paranormal activity basically earlier, then do you believe the true ghosts that are actually out there? Can you believe that they're aliens then?
Again, I have to give you this really general answer. I'd be open to that possibility. I don't know. Again, ghosts, much like UFOs, I definitely think there's something behind that. I'm not sure if it is what we think it is.
Yeah.
I think some people have experiences. They are so profound to them, and they are so real. And I have a hard time. I've talked to some people who say they see ghosts, they communicate with ghosts, they've seen aliens. There's a pair of cryptozoologists that come in here a lot on Sundays and go through the section, and they actively go out on Bigfoot hunts and UFO hunts and all these different things. And I talk to these people, and I know I'm not talking to a crazy person. I know I'm talking to someone that at the very least believes with every fiber of their being what they saw. I'll give you their card. You can get a hold of them. They have a whole association. They're always looking for new
Christine
numbers.
has a new book then.
But I don't know that the experiences that people are having, that they are translating as ghosts or as UFOs or all these other things, I don't know if that's the human brain attaching meaning to something that it can't understand, or if they're making an accurate connection between the experience and the thing that caused it.
Well, that's why I was asking.
But I'm definitely open to it. I do believe that there is something that we're not able to see that maybe is interacting with our world that's causing a lot of these reports of hauntings and ghost sightings. I also definitely believe that scientifically we don't have the technology to detect everything that's in our physical world.
Oh, yes.
And so until we do, we're not going to be able to say one way or the other, this is
a
ghost.
I was just going to say, I agree with Jason, most of it is crap. Now,
I think a lot of it is about money.
Yes.
It's about people who
want
have a
to
certain
believe.
image of themselves
Yes.
and want to believe and want to put that forth, like, oh, I'm a very sensitive person. But like I said, I've talked to people like that, and I've talked to people who I look in their eyes, and I know that if nothing else, they're absolutely telling me the truth as they understand it, and I think there's something to that.
Yeah, because that's why when you brought up like it could be in a different form, I was just wondering if ghosts, people that believe in ghosts, if they truly exist, is that actually aliens being in the form of that?
I think that's definitely a possibility. Is that it's something else, some other kind of being that we can't understand or communicate
I would
with, really.
then believe more into ghosts if that is true than it would be alien life.
If you think about it, if you want to compare between like ghosts and supernatural to the extraterrestrials, what do they all travel and communicate through? It's all technology. Like a ghost, like through a video recorder.
And that's the kind of stuff that I think is harder to entirely debunk. We don't know, you watch a show like Ghost Hunters and you see all these machines responding to something. Well, they're responding to something. And with the right operator, there is a certain amount of human error that can be eliminated, although it obviously can't ever be totally ruled out. So, one of the things I think is very illuminating in Ghost Hunters is they go in as skeptics, and a lot of the time they'll say, oh, well, you know, you have all these unshielded wires and this is EMF and
Yeah.
you're responding to these electrical signals that are actually affecting your body, and that's why you're getting these chills and these weird feelings, and that's
Yeah.
why, you know, this thing's happening. So, you know, but then they go into a room where they can disprove that there is anything causing that strange reaction in their machine, and the machine reacts anyway.
Now-
Well, something's doing it.
I was gonna say, now on that same note, not to get too far from the UFO since we're talking ghost hunters. Now, do you believe in those YouTube videos that have shown up in recent years, showing, like, trying to prove that there's strings pulling on your shoulders?
You know what?
and all that stuff?
When I'm looking at somebody's homemade video that goes up online, I don't trust anything I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Because I know so
Don't.
little myself
Yeah.
about what can be done with technology, and I see so many things in movies that I go, wow, how did they do that? I mean, I'm so wide-eyed when it comes to that stuff. I always assume something shady is going on if it's not happening right in front of my face.
You can see the ones that say real ghost caught. Watch them when you're watching. There's one I like to play on somebody. It's see, it's a rocking chair, and the rocking chair starts
It's
rocking.
the old
on
Hammer
itself.
horror trick.
Yeah,
It's in all the
Here
good
comes
Hammer
Linda
movies.
Blair from The Exorcist. She just pops out. And it's like, oh, yeah, that was the real ghost that they caught on camera. I guess they just get it for you to watch it, you know.
Like a joke.
I don't know what Tim's saying. There's some of those ones on YouTube, like showing the still.
Well, yeah,
photography.
supposedly a couple years ago, like, all the ghost hunters, like, there was people actually pointing out the stuff in the episodes.
There's multiple websites out
Yeah,
there that have
pointing out
Yeah.
that
debunking
this
them.
is, that they're just doing it for the show, and it's like, well, honestly, I didn't need to watch this to say no shit.
Yeah.
And it just
Paranormal
there wouldn't be a paranormal state, there wouldn't be this.
And that's the
It
thing.
just-
Every time something really cool that you really want to believe in comes up, you have to ask yourself who's benefiting from you believing in it.
Yeah.
And that debunks a lot right there.
That's why I always laugh going, if anybody goes to Kentucky for any kind of movie convention or even comic book convention, 90% of the people that are going to be there are so-called ghost hunters, people that believe in ghosts. It becomes downright scary in the people that are wandering these conventions and everything. It cracks me up how much people believe in that stuff, that, I mean, they will believe in the ghost, but they won't even believe in a religion as much as they believe in
Oh
ghosts.
yeah, I was going to say, for
And
some
just-
people I think it is very
scary.
much a religion. It's a belief system
Yeah.
to them. So let's move on to the next question. Jason, what would extraterrestrial life be? Higher intelligence, lower, just the same as us, or only exhibiting a different method for communication?
Ooh. That's a lot. That's a lot.
Compare and contrast potential extraterrestrial life's intelligence level to ours.
Well, if I don't foresee, I mean, we are very, I'm sure many people have said this in the past, but if I just look at where we've come from since I was in high school, when I was in high school, cell phones just started to become, like, you know, only the select few cool kids had a cell phone.
Well, now I feel old.
YouTube?
And
Also,
Yeah.
I remember when the high school kids had beepers.
we had beepers. Now beepers beepers. But over the years, I mean, you can see now how far technology has advanced and how far, you know. I mean, we're still not to the point to where now, if you watch Back to the Future 2, it's kind of disappointing. I mean, I remember watching when I was little, going, man, I can't wait. Now it's like, we're not going in that direction. We're going in this direction. So I don't foresee us, in a near future, whether it's 100, 200 degrees, I don't see ever to the point where we are going to launch a generational ship to go out and make contact with another planet. So for them to come to us, which is I guess what we always have to assume when we're talking about this subject, if they're coming to us, they obviously have to know enough about us to scope us out, to know that we wouldn't attack them, to know that our planet wouldn't have diseases that they would be susceptible to and die, because there's stuff you could get, you know, a few thousand miles from here that's going to kill you, but the people that live there don't, you know, it doesn't affect them. So they would have to know a lot. So I would think if we ever get to the point of communication with them, I don't ever see us. I mean, we you know, humans, we're so burdened with other things that this is not an importance to us. And, you know, back when we were talking about, you know, the third world countries where no one believes in aliens, because you know what, I don't even know if I'm going to eat a piece of bread today. I don't have time. And like when I was talking earlier about where we come from, like if you were talking to a subject like that, like he just doesn't care. Like I have all these chores to do and work to do today. Like this is the most dumbest thing. Like why would I care? So I guess the society we live in, to be even privileged enough to talk about this stuff, is one thing that, you know, and I think of it as a very entertainment. I don't think we'd ever get to the serious point where we'd risk lives to go out there in the next, and I don't even know what's safe to say in the next, I don't even know, 1,000 years? I can't even see us still
It's gonna be like
manning a
Jetsons.
craft. And that's the thing, we assume they're coming in a ship, but a spaceship, a saucer, a craft is a man-made concept in science fiction. We're trying to base the science off still, this whole thing is relevant in science fiction. So that's the whole thing. I would like to think that they could come here and teach us things, but if they're coming here, they're way more intelligent than us, and we better be afraid. Because if one thing, and you know, whether they've evolved beyond war and everything, you know, when you're looking at predators and, you know, the chain of the food chain, there are so many things in this world. Everything is trying to kill something else. Human beings, I mean, we pretty much are dominant, but look at instead of the bigger things that want to kill us now, the smaller things, the cancers, the diseases, they can kill us and they can take us down rather quickly. And I mean, that's my point. If they would come here, and I don't know, they would have to be very intelligent to even come here.
I can agree with that. Definitely, they would have to be like even like something like quantum entanglement, which is something we haven't been able to figure out yet, and even Einstein dubbed one of the spookiest phenomena that there were. It's where a particle over here snaps, and this one does it simultaneously. And if you were to figure that out, you could figure out telepathy. You could figure out like time travel. You could figure out so many things. So if they figured that out, they would be here in a second, and they would be much more intelligent than us. But if you think about the moon of Titan, for example, which is one of the oddest ones out there because it has an atmosphere. It is a methane-based that might be habitable. It's full of black sludge, and they have oily rivers and things like that. So could you just imagine what would crawl out of there if it evolved? It would probably be more eel-like, you know, like you said, if we were all swimmers, we would develop a body like that. The ability to communicate with something like that would probably be impossible as well. But yes, I do think that we're kind of like, we would be parasites to each other. So as you said, like if they were to study us, and you know, they would have to ensure that our germs wouldn't kill us and things like that. Because we would have different chemical composition, different anatomy, different germs. You know, I think that even just contact with one another would be a threat, because you know, our germs would be theirs to theirs to us. So I think it would clearly vary. You know, the bloodless fish is be our little pet, and a very icy fish tank.
I couldn't. I would have to definitely say that their intelligence is way beyond, and way more advanced than us. I mean, if you look at it, we only use how much percent of our brain we can begin with. You know, like what we don't. How much?
Well,
of our
I
brain
actually
do we
did
use
read
there?
What is it, 8 to 10%?
That I actually
Somewhere
read
in
a
that
book about
range.
the brain, and it says that we use 90. We have to for all of our body function. There's only 10%
Really?
that haven't been tapped. Yeah, that's actually a myth, allegedly.
Yeah,
Well, what
based on
about
some
like,
shady studies.
that,
about
yeah.
that.
not to get too far off on that real quick, now, I have an autistic son. Does that mean like it's tapping the other 10%? And it's not
Potentially, and that's
using-
awesome.
And he's
I think.
actually not using the other stuff.
No. I don't know enough about autism to.
I say this is, I don't want to be very ignorant on this subject, but I have a lot of friends who have autistic children, and some do have what is it called, where they have the skill where, you know,
Savant.
a savant type
Yeah.
thing. Where is that coming from? Because that has to be someplace where, you know, because if they have that skill, like what you were saying, doesn't tap into the other part, it has to be. There has to be something that's functioning at a higher functioning somewhere else, and it might be handicapping for something else not working. You know, just the way if if a blind person they hear better, so something has to be working in that mind to compensate. I do believe that there has to be. They just have sometimes they have skills, or it's something that they
That's why I bring it up, because the wiring in the brain, it got to be different. If this is going on with them, we call it autism. But in order for them to function, they're functioning differently because their brains are not like ours. You know, we assume we have no problems, but maybe they are the more higher functioning humans. Who
I can
knows?
agree with that. I can very much agree with that.
Because I have a daughter also that has special needs, and supposedly part of her brain was killed off at a very, very young age, and she has overcome that to do other things, which makes me think, has she tapped in that other part of the brain in order to function? That maybe, say like myself, that part of the brain has just been killed off by beer, but it's not used, what I'm saying, I gotta wonder if even going back into the paranormal, these people that do see or claim and swear to God they see ghosts, maybe their brains are rewired also.
I think the brain is a very fascinating subject. That was another one that I started when I started my whole science readings. They say, like, a lot of people are under the assumption that our brains function like a computer. They don't. They're very disorganized and very messy. They're more like a crazy kitchen full of people running around. And that's why, you can remember something that happened 10 years ago, but for decades.
Yeah.
So, and we develop our brains. This is something people don't understand. So we develop our brains based on our own lifestyles. Stress is going to change the way that your brain works. Albert Einstein's brain was very different, and people may think that it was an anomaly, that he was an alien himself, but it was actually because he was so strong in mathematics that I think it was the inferior lobe that it was larger, like much larger, because that was how he lived his life. So, and like they even say,
they even have theories
like
on
even
that. Yeah, a form of Asperger's or something that they might take.
Well, like I even was looking at the difference between the male and the female brain. Now the male brain may be larger and have more gray matter in it, but the woman's brain is a white. It has more white matter. So the smaller difference is actually made up by the faster snapping of neurons in the woman's brain. So there is back long ago that you would see, well, their brains are bigger, so they must be smarter. But ours are more efficient. Through evolution, they're pretty much compatible with each other. You know what I mean?
That explains it all.
Yeah. Now, let me apologize. I didn't want to take away from what you were saying, but
No.
went into something I wanted to say.
But yeah, I actually thought that we only use roughly up to about like 15% of our brain, but
They have much better ability to image the brain now, and they've
Yeah,
discovered that was just based on some bad science and some old
I
science.
think it's what they teach in school.
Well, science moves so fast. It's just.
I slept during school. So
Yeah, no, you're right.
Did you
That
get
was
to
the
answer the
original
question,
view.
really, Matt? Okay. So, and yeah, again, I really have nothing to add because they pretty much already said it. I think that anything that could.
Could you
Why? You're giving me all the
That's
answers.
a nice place to be.
But yeah, I think if anything is going to get to our planet and make contact with us, it's probably smarter than us, or we would have figured out how to get to its planet and make contact with it. I think it's just that simple. I think if we're talking about when we eventually get to the point where we can build a ship that can get us to another planet that has life on it, then maybe the answer is different. But if we're talking about extraterrestrials coming here, well, they've already trumped us in the interstellar space travel department. So.
Yeah, and just
Like quantum theory.
that's what I was getting at. It would take, let's assume that a group of 10 Greys is coming on their ship, they're driving. I'm sure it has a shifter
Look at
too.
their
Yeah,
driving.
it has to.
They all have steering wheels.
If they're here, the amount of technology, do they still have on their planet, and I'm excluding the old, they're coming here because they ruined their planet thing, would there still be third world portions of their planet that really don't care if there's Earthlings? Like, that's what I'm saying. It would have to be a planet-wide total understanding of each other at peace to put this amount of technology and research into something to come here.
Yeah,
They would all get on the same page, and that was my whole thing with the social commentary was we don't get on the same page.
No.
We have agendas, and you were saying how crazy the brain fires and how we think. If you would just go up a satellite view of this area right here, our country, the way we react is how our brain works. Everybody's going somewhere, and that's the thing. I could never see someone coming down for a total world peace enough, for a total greatest minds of the planet to come together to say, let's get here. At least not in the next thousands of years.
No, I agree. And also, I think, I totally lost my thought. Never mind, I think nothing.
From what I read, I actually thought it was they were coming here to actually take the planet back because of humans. We're destroying it.
I would think
That's
that.
a very popular trope in
Yes,
science
and if
fiction.
I was
The aliens are coming to save the
I would
Earth from
think
us.
so.
And the world peace thing, that's when you bring Christ back into it. Like, Christ is coming again. These aliens are gonna come and save us. Actually, what it is only so many people are gonna be really screwed. Like, well, when that time comes. But yeah, I think if we're just gonna Earth is pretty much gonna go to hell, and it's gonna be gone. And that's what comes into the Mars thing. And for instance, you know the band Europe? You ever heard the song The Final Countdown? Well,
You
that
always
would
sing
be,
it for me.
I go to my green tea before I start.
Are you watching the Alpha Festival
listen to the lyrics on that
2013
song. It's
this
actually about
weekend?
leaving the planet and going to the outer space to live up there. And that's what certain passages in their song, like, we're heading for Venus, still as farewell, maybe they've seen us and they'll welcome us all. It's like, so, I mean, we already destroyed Earth by, smokestacks and automobiles and whatnot, so. Yeah, and it's a beautiful planet. It's a self-sufficient planet. Everything we need is here, but that's what's pissing them off, really.
Yeah,
So it's like,
I would be pissed off.
Yeah, me too.
We are
And
not
I
good
have
to
to
our
say
people.
though, I have a hard time, although again, it makes a great story and a great idea to explore in fiction. I have a hard time with the idea that aliens on another planet with so much
Care.
technology that they can get here, care at all what we're doing to our planet, they can go to any other planet.
Well, I think they
It's kind of
they-
like the idea of, I just watched this movie the other day and I thought it's already so outdated. It was one of the many alien invasions of the Battle for LA.
Oh, I saw that, yeah.
The premise is so ridiculous because there's no
Is that
water
right?
anywhere in
It's
the
just
universe.
yeah,
The whole
just-
idea
just
is
Los
aliens have
Angeles.
come here because we have liquid water. And of course, 6 months before the DVD release of that movie, they found that area in space that is basically just a geyser of liquid water that's instantly freezing and heading all over the universe. There's so much water out there and so much of it in liquid form, an infinite amount, one might say.
That also
And so the premise now that this whole idea we have that aliens are going to come get us, it's based on a concept of
save
scarcity. Like that there's one other solar system out there with one planet that's got intelligent life on it and they need to come here and get our stuff, but we know now that that's not the universe that we live in.
Mankind's ego.
Yeah.
Oh, it's staggering.
Yeah, mankind doesn't want to admit that Ming the Merciless is still out there.
Well, aliens might not even need water to. I mean,
And
they
yeah,
live
that's
in
the other
another
thing.
planet.
There's the
They-
idea that
water
what is most important to
ours.
us is
Yeah,
what's
water
most
is
important to
our
them.
essential element. It's
Yes.
Because
not
having
their
no water,
necessity.
wouldn't that go into the grays and their skin and
Yeah,
all
yeah.
that
The
other
way
stuff?
that they would kind of absorb food. I mean, their bodies are just like conducive for war. You know what I mean? Like they're like an evolutionary thing. If you think about like clearly the fish on the ice planet would need water. If there was a black sludge creature on the moon of Titan, there's water
Maybe it
is
just needs
not
black
what
sludge.
they need. Yeah, if you bring them over here, they're gonna throw them in a tank. They're just gonna die because that's not what they need. We're Earth, and water is our necessity. Then that's the thing I think people don't get. Like especially when they look for life on other planets, they're always looking for water. What if they don't need water to exist? They don't need to come here and take ours. So it probably didn't
Yeah.
originate on.
Can you imagine that would kind of be like building a car from scratch, making a still to distill your own fuel, and using it to drive 50 miles to get something you can get at your corner store.
Exactly.
It's just what a ridiculous amount of work for something that is plentiful in the universe. And the same thing with planets being destroyed. What a ridiculous thing to do to go pick on one group who is destroying their planet when you could go to so many other planets and get anything that you need or live there or anything.
Yeah, why not invent, if you were dependent on water and it is scarce, why wouldn't you invent a substitute for it instead of a ship to come here to steal something?
Right.
We're assuming that they even understand concept of good or evil, or I don't know.
Yeah, the only thing that I ever read about the problem with creating water is hydrogen, and because it's so flammable, you would need a big bust, like, to create
But
water.
if you're on a ship, if you figured out how to get a ship here,
Yeah.
that's an
It
easy
would be the planet of many explosions.
So there's one more question on the list, and then I'm going to ask you guys one more final question when we're done with this one. And so the final question from Christine is, do you believe that we should make contact? What will occur if we do?
And it's what I'm already looking at, so that's what it is. Right on what we were talking about, I would hope that, like I said, the amount of cooperation and intelligence that come here to simply wipe us out would be very disappointing. However, I understand, I see Mother Nature's very ruthless, and I'm sure her rules are ruthless on whatever other planet is out there. When we contact them, like I said, I believe that they will kill the concept of religion, and I know every other species that is higher evolved or higher intelligence, we treat the lesser species like a pet. That's exactly what we do. They don't think it's cute that we're destroying our planet. You know, it could be a very frightening thing. I hope to never see it, because I don't want to even deal. I got enough going on, and I just hope to never have to see it. So I would hope they'd be friendly, but chances are I'm leaning towards a hostility.
Yeah, I don't think we can get away from the hostility part of that. Stephen Hawking always said that if they did come, it would be like the Native Americans in America and everything. When the Europeans came on and just kind of, try to change them, colonize them to be their way, or try to eradicate them completely. I was just gonna say, like, we know about like the germs, whether or not they could actually live here. The other thing I wanted to say is that we are. So because of what we've seen and ingested in literature and film, we would probably treat them like a force of our own. And we are, we have like nuclear bombs and stuff like that. So I don't think, it would be one hell of a fight that would just destroy Earth. So I think if they were more intelligent, they would already know not to come down that way. We've been sending up radio signals in space for a very long time now. I think they found about 16 different signals that could be like coming from other planets. Now, every planet, and he actually sent this to me too, has its own unique sound. Like if you go on YouTube or something, you can find that each one has their own sound. But I think that we should leave any sort of contact to our little radio signals. If we start learning Morse code with each other, that's fine, like pen pals. we can do that. But I don't think it would be beneficial to either one of us. It would be nice to learn something. I'm extremely curious. I want to know what's out there. But I just don't think that it would be a good idea, at least not, maybe Skype each other. Something like that. I just don't think face-to-face it would have a very good turnout, at least not initially.
I think we're already, as for communicating with them, I agree with Christine to a point where not to, or even if we could, but another conspiracy thing in my brain is that communicating with them is already happening. It's just we don't have the techno. Well, it's there, but I don't think it's provided to us yet. You know how, like, for instance, some real high tech is made, but next thing you know, like 10 years later, it's out, but it was already out. I already think that our government within is already making contact with them and whatnot, but just another way back to, just another way back to us, to where it's like it leaves us, you believe, yeah, no, why don't you believe? Everybody has their own little standpoint, but I don't think we can communicate with them, us, you know, but you know, like Obama could, you know, if he wanted to, you know, all the politics and he's a reptilian probably.
Are you saying he's a replicator?
Reptilian.
The reptile breed, which is allegedly supposed to move into political office.
What's his name? Ventura say?
Jesse Andrew.
Yeah, Ventura. Yeah, Ventura. He's a reptilian. Look at him. He's licking his lips. He said,
Wow, that is racist.
That's
Really?
the next panel.
What was that?
Oh.
All right, I take that back.
The way Jesse Body Ventura said it, believe me, was very racist. I know what you thought.
I'm not racist.
Oh,
I
code
got
word.
TV.
Code word.
I love Jesse
Well,
the Body Ventura,
yeah, I
but
think
he is
The thing on
racist.
Ancient Aliens, though, that was cool, was that they were talking about, did you see the episode, I don't know if you watched that or not, they had an episode about Hitler, and they were saying that the technologies for developing weapons was coming from an alien source. Now, it was Albert Einstein who allegedly let us know that they were developing nuclear bombs and stuff like that. They were saying that that everything that Hitler's regime did was forwarded by aliens.
Well, Hitler was certainly a huge believer in the paranormal,
Yes.
you know,
2 words for you.
witchcraft. And,
Cosmic Cube.
Iron Sky.
Oh, that's what I was
Watch Iron Sky. It will explain everything.
and yeah, my answer is I absolutely think that if we have the opportunity to make contact, we should. And I do think it's fraught with danger. They could be invaders. They could find us so distasteful. We could be like ants to them. I mean, I think there's a whole bunch of potential good things and really bad things that could come out of it. But I think if there's one thing that has kept our species alive for this many years, it's our curiosity
Yeah.
and our drive to know more. And I honestly think if the average person had some kind of proof that there were alien life forms that we could communicate with, we would not rest until we communicated with them because that's who we are as a species.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily think it would be like, I think the Mars attack scenario is entirely plausible. We come in peace, ack, but I don't think, I also honestly don't think that will stop us
Yeah.
from
I don't think so
exploring
either.
those possibilities. And if it happened in my lifetime, that would just be so exciting.
I know, I think
However
that
it
would-
ended.
Well, space is the final frontier, you know. I mean, I'm seriously way too curious about that.
Yeah.
But I do understand the danger, so I mean, just to protect the other people, I would be kind of against it, but I am.
I just don't think it's in our
Terribly
nature
curious.
to walk away from that opportunity regardless of how dangerous it looks.
Yeah.
I think we would just run right at it screaming.
Yeah, we would.
So,
Yeah, same.
And I want to go to Mars in 10 years, but
Same here.
by then.
yeah, the Mars One program is
Let's send
really
Justin
interesting.
Bieber there first.
Yeah,
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
It's like an alien, no, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
So I have one final question that
I
I want to
have
ask
one
each
too.
of you. Oh, cool. Okay, cool. So let me do mine and then I'll let you do yours. I would like each of you to suggest a couple movies or books that either influenced your thinking on the topic, whether they're fiction or nonfiction, or just things that you mentioned that you think our audience would enjoy checking out.
Oh, okay.
Jason.
Oh, 5 set my movies that I liked. Oh, yeah. Besides shameless plugs of my own stuff. Yeah, I mean,
Shameless plugs are
it's a
totally
real
fine.
thinker. Yeah. Oh, well, like I said, what got me started was like even just my book that ignited my imagination was like E.T. and like just I mean the way it's put together is still an amazing film to watch. But like the concept, when I was little, I always wanted to know like, well, what were the other ones doing? What was going on? How long did it take to get them there? And I remember myself thinking these questions, and I remember my dad answering. I'm like, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. That's not important. So that was one. You know what I mean? Like, but why? I'm like 3 or 4 when it came out, and I'm asking these questions. So another one that I like that hints on the time thing that I'm talking about, like with infinite and time. Time's a really cool a subject to me that makes me think about these things. And Pandora, is that movie that I like?
Awesome.
Time in that movie, how I don't want to give any spoilers away,
No,
but the concept of them, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
If you like the idea of where I was talking about infinite, and they're not. This isn't even an infinite movie. This is just a long span of time movie and what can happen, and how perception is reality. Like fantastic film that makes you think. And I really wanted Prometheus to be that for me, but
Yeah,
I'll
it
have
just,
to check it out.
yeah, it was never gonna be. Let's put it that way. It was never gonna
Joe's just punched me in the face every time.
be. It was 20 years too late. But yeah, Pandorum's very good example.
So like again, like that is, I mean, those would be like, the big, like it's very rare for us to get a great sci-fi space adventure. Event Horizon, I kind of like
Oh,
too.
that's
There's no
great.
aliens in it, but maybe that was an alien that was attacking them. I don't know.
Well, I think a good place to start is H.G. Wells, because he is the man that reading wise, the man of the year million, that's one of the ways to think. That was one of the first things that kind of insinuated that that's what we would look like, is kind of like Blaze. You also have his story, War of the Worlds, obviously the movie's War of the Worlds, and I would definitely recommend checking out the radio broadcast of War of the Worlds as well. I'm going to be writing some alien stuff. I actually started one of them. Okay, so check that out. There's a whole wonderful display over here.
Yeah, and there's an entire bookcase over there. This is just a tiny selection from my ufology section.
And I also think that if you just sit around one day, maybe you're just like, I want to check out what's going on, just like go on Google and put in life on other planets, you'll find out amazing amount of information. In fact, I actually found a survey from the Huffington Post that said that 50% of Americans think there is some form of life on other planets. 17% do not believe, and 33 are not sure.
Honestly, that's
Something.
definitely outweighs, the believers outweigh everything else.
Well, yeah, 45% believe that aliens have visited Earth. So it is, there's a lot to think about that.
That they were already here?
Yes, 45%. A lot of people think we were created from them. I mean,
More people
That's
believe
what
that
I'm
aliens
thinking.
have visited Earth than officially say they believe in global warming, according to the last Huffington Post poll.
well,
Because right now global warming is at a 38% belief rate.
I
among
believe they have
Americans.
visited because it helps explain some of the gaps in history. In my opinion. Whether
Yeah.
it's the Mayans, the dinosaurs.
well, they said it
different
only
things of
took
that
like,
nature.
20 years to build some of the pyramids. That's not a lot of time for,
Not having technology, not
Yeah.
having machinery.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quick amount of time.
There are a lot of unexplained things. I mean, I am very skeptical. I've never seen anything like that. For example, when you think about Roswell, New Mexico, the alleged crash landing of a spaceship, what happened was, it wasn't until the 1980s that they decided that there had been these little gray kind of people being pulled out and stuff. It took them 30 years to change it. So, I don't know, I just think,
That's why Area 51 is all completely fake, but they
Yeah.
keep expanding fence line and everything
Do you
else.
think that 51's actually maybe a spot where we're replicating their hovercrafts and ships?
I think all kinds of stuff actually happens in
Whenever
Area
you were
51.
saying that when we first talked about it, I was going to ask you, but that's where you were leading to. It's not where it's crashed saucers.
I'm skeptical on the whole Area 51 thing, but again, there's something going on.
Yeah,
there's something there. The government is not telling us something. I don't know if it's aliens or not.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if it's so much aliens as much as it's actually major governments. I think the world.
But I think there's something.
Yeah,
it's
I think
not,
the
I'm not one of those
major
people who's like,
governments in the
Area
world
51 is
know
just a
what's
military
going
base, no big deal. No, I think there's something there. I don't know what that means,
I think that we're hysterical, the public's hysterical, so I don't think we need to know, everything.
Honestly,
I know.
sometimes stuff is kept from us
Yeah.
because we have a tendency as a species to panic and wreck things.
Yeah, I don't want to,
That's-
War of the
That's why
Worlds,
they
that
keep it
broadcast, people went crazy when War of the Worlds.
Well, and
It wasn't even real,
I'm going to jump ahead of you in the things I'm recommending. One of the books that first got me really interested in the idea of what extraterrestrial life, what kind of a form it would take, is Michael Crichton's book Sphere. And the whole beginning of the book, there's really nothing going on except scientists talking to each other.
Just
And they
like the
talk a
movie.
lot about, oh God, the book is so much better than the movie.
I
The
know,
movie
that's why
was
I said it.
terrible.
That's it.
There's a lot of conversation just about the idea of a black hole and how scientifically that could work in theory, and about what form extraterrestrial life could take. And the main character in the book is the psychologist, who I think was played by Dustin Hoffman in the movie. And he's there basically because he has done this study on what human response would be to extraterrestrial life, and what it all boils down to for him is it would be terror.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how curious we are,
Oh, yeah.
how fascinated we are. Panic is the natural and inevitable reaction of a human being to something from another
I
planet.
agree.
And that's the most important thing in his view in the book. That's what the government really has to worry about, is not the alien,
But
it's
the
all of
people,
us
yeah.
acting like idiots.
Yeah.
When it comes down to the whole thing of whether they exist or not, say they do and it's being hidden, I think that's one of the reasons why, like our government or you know, the whole American government or whatever didn't come out or even open up with other countries opened up of like, yeah, they really exist. America is still saying no, we're just putting it out right in front of your face. They're like, oh, here, whatever you feel like believing, but that would definitely be a world panic. You know, that's anarchy.
So speaking of panic and anarchy, are there any books or movies that you would like to recommend?
Everybody probably seen it, but Close Encounters of the Third Kind. If you really look at everything that happens in that movie, like we're powerless. Like was that you or you said we're like ants?
Oh, that was him.
That was I think we are. Their technology, what they use for it. You know, you can get our military together, aiming weapons, and I think something like that actually has happened. You have to look into it, but they can just shut you down. You know, any weapon that you have, they can just completely shut you down. Make you, in the movie, you know, the lights go out, his car runs out of gas, and they have they have those.
They'll shut off
resources.
complete
Yeah.
towns without anybody knowing about it. I think that happened more during the 50s and 60s than anything, because they didn't have the media we have today. And just at that time, you could blame, the Russians
That
were
could even
coming.
be a whole other panel right there. It's just talking about how the potential interactions could have changed as technology has changed, because it is.
Yeah.
It's like the game that me and my boyfriend play all the time is how stupid would this movie be if everyone had cell phones? None of this would make sense. Because there's a certain dividing point in cinema where if you just put everyone with a cell phone, the whole premise of the movie falls apart.
Yeah, that's true.
And mostly like Hitchcock movies. No cell phones. Of course birds can attack you if you're trapped in a phone booth, but you know, as soon as you have cell phones, call the CDC and everybody who deals with animals, there are birds everywhere. You know. And do you have one more question?
Yes,
that you wanna
my
ask?
bonus question, and we did sort of cover it, but I just want a little more in depth on this one. Now, in the event that there were aliens who were not hostile, suppose they came to us out of need because their own planet was being overrun by like sun or water, whatever, methane, and they actually were able to live here with us. Would you support a species, an alien species living on Earth with us?
No.
No?
That's it. I don't have anything else to say.
Unless they're
No,
redheaded.
It depends. I mean, here's the thing. They're going to have some bargaining tools. If you can get here, obviously we can benefit. And again, the whole travel aspect to get here, yeah, we need to, then we could probably all figure things out. But I don't believe that they would want to do that. I don't know. I just,
Well,
I don't know if I would want them here. Unless they have like the, unless they have like the iPad 6 and the iPhone 7 coming out or whatever, then I want them here.
now I
It's
would.
like, what, they're like here for a handout, like we put them on the food
Well,
stamps and.
Like, are we talking like a district? Are we talking like a district
That's
guide
the-
situation?
Oh, well, we would try to do what, they did to the Native Americans. We would try to teach them our language and put them to work. We would just take a little time. I mean,
That
there
never
is-
works. It's never gonna
I'm pretty sure they would be workaholics too if they built a spaceship to come up. I'm sure they'd be, we have no periods. You know what I mean? But my thing on this one is that I would, all my friends would be aliens. That's just how I am. But I would definitely, I would even put effort into training them.
Speaking as one of your friends, I'm wondering what that says
I'm
about
just
me.
kidding. I'm just kidding. I would need your help because you're like the major reader here. I would need your help to tutor them. But I did think about something different that I failed to mention earlier. Was that back with the article about the Mars and like how they probably had life before us, there was another theory I considered. Was that when their atmosphere, you know, probably got sucked into space. What if they were so advanced? Because at 4.5, I think it was like 4.5 billions ago, would be equate to, well, it would be less time than humans have, it would be longer time than humans have even been in existence. So if they had life, you know, a long, long time ago, they would probably have advanced a lot. So if their atmosphere was sucked out, they would have to move to another planet. And if they moved to Earth, and you know how we are into genetic engineering, we like to try to bring back dinosaurs and things like that. What if they wanted to recreate their species, and we were actually Mars species, but they knew they were too advanced, and you know, if they could reproduce, they would still look like the advanced model, but they would be living on Earth. But we would not, because we had not advanced through time to look like that, which is why they would be kind of obscure, they would kind of hide themselves, but they were our original scientists who made us. Just something to think about. Because essentially we'd be the aliens. That's about
That would explain a lot.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool. I guess I just have to see.
Just give them, hey,
If
go
they
buy
were
Steel
friendly.
City Outbreak.
Yeah. Wasn't there a movie
You
based
drink
on
beer,
that concept?
yeah.
They
Like,
were
here's
a
a
couple
beer.
detectives or something.
Like yeah.
What?
Like James Caan and an alien, his partner was
Alienation.
Alienation, yeah.
that's-
The men had the kids that are that.
Yeah.
That was weird. I remember watching that when I was little too. This is weird.
Yeah, that was a good one.
It was good. They even made a
The
TV
squats
series
on their head,
out of
right?
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the TV series what I was thinking about. I
Yeah,
remember that.
because it had the dude
Fox
from
made it.
Robot Jocks that was the cop instead of James Caan, because he did it like he didn't even want to do Alienation. I remember reading he did it because basically they were telling him his star is kind of fallen, and if he still wants the big paycheck, he needs to do this movie.
Well, and yeah, I mean, I think that it would be,
You would help me tutor.
I would totally help you tutor aliens. But again, I think my own personal view on that is probably in conflict with the larger societal view. I thought that, I don't know if any of you have seen District 9, but I thought that was
I've seen
a
a little bit
really,
of it.
really interesting
Yeah.
exploration of the idea of what would happen if some aliens who had some phenomenal technology that wasn't working at that moment ended up in our care. And I honestly, as horrible as it is, I think that is how our society would react. I think at
Yeah.
first it would be like, this is so cool, what can we get from you? Oh, you need our help? Well, you live over there now.
Yeah.
And
that
it
is
just-
how-
I mean, that is how we as a species treat
That
anybody
is.
that we come across who has a lesser number and needs our help generally is by ghettoizing them and sticking them somewhere we don't have to look at them and so
That's why I always-
feel like that might be the direction we took.
I was gonna say
Depending on
people
what they
don't get
look
that
like.
movie.
They get off looking like
If they were all
supermodels.
red hair
We
and
would
blue
worship
skin.
them. They get out like dogs.
That's true.
We do that with our own animals, you know?
Yeah.
Like Dennis Leary said it best. Like,
That
why do we
movie
eat the
wasn't
cow and we pet
for
the kitty,
the
but then,
stupid people.
you know?
That was a movie made to actually
What
for
movie?
people to think. District.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a movie that they don't come along as often as they do in that movie actually made you think. That's like your Close Encounters. You don't get those types of movies these days.
Yeah. See,
Because any movie that's over 90 minutes and makes the public think, they write it off as
You're
it's a
right.
bad movie.
Yeah, see,
I
with
hate
the
that.
Close Encounters, you can't really leave watching it. It's a long movie that you gotta really stick with
I'm
watching.
I'm gonna wrap us up a little bit right now
They need a
because it looks
remake.
like the beginning
Which
of
one?
the horror realm scavenger hunt.
Yeah,
has
everybody
ended.
goes-
And I am gonna now need to go help these people.
And I'm going to photobomb this.
Sounds good.
So I just want to thank,
Real quick,
I want to
stick your
thank all
butt
of you
against
for
the
coming
window.
today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Christine, for setting
Thank
this
you,
up.
no problem, it was fun.
Yeah, now everybody buy books.
Thank you. Hey, everybody stretch.
Hi.
Hi. I don't think we've done as good as we
You guys look like scavenger
We
hunters,
are
you are,
scavenger
man.